Guys. Hi guys, welcome back to Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host Jamie. I'm going to go straight into it. Basically, I've got at the weekend. Obviously, it was Premier League through to League Two, and obviously the FA Cup quarter-final games were on. So I'm just going to run through them now. Going into the Premier League, Arsenal obviously were top at the start of the day. They were 5 points clear, but Manchester City weren't playing in the Premier League because they were playing at home to Burnley in the FA Cup quarter final. Now, on the Saturday night game between Manchester City and former Manchester City Legends team Burnley, Vincent Kompany, Manchester City gave them a football lesson and absolutely smashed them. Haaland got another hat trick after getting a hat trick in the week against Leipzig in the Champions League. Haaland now has 42 goals in all competitions, which is absolutely insane. In the Premier League alone, he's got 28 goals already, and there's still 11 games to go. So I think he's going to smash all the. Well, he's not. I don't think he's going to. He's already smashed the all-time goal scorer in one season for Manchester City. He's absolutely going to smash everything else by the looks of it. I would say he'll overtake Messi and Ronaldo's Champions League goals as well in the future, providing he doesn't get any injuries, obviously. So it's looking mental. And if Haaland was to stay at Manchester City for another, say, 5-6 years, I could easily see him taking that Golden Boot even off Harry Kane, because Harry Kane's probably going to, not Golden Boot, the all-time goal-scoring prize away from Alan Shearer. Kane will probably take that away from Alan Shearer soon. But I could see Haaland doing it if he stayed in the Premier League for a long time as well. So it's absolutely insane, but Manchester City won 6-0. They go through into the semi-finals against Sheffield United, who came from 2-1 behind with 10 minutes to go at home to Blackburn Rovers in their quarter-final tie. So that set up a semi-final now between Sheffield United and Manchester City. Obviously, I think Manchester City is going to win that one. Most people would say that. And in the other quarter-finals on Sunday, it was Fulham that was basically playing away at Manchester United. They took a 1-0 lead, but Manchester United came back with 3 goals in the last 20 minutes of the game to win 3-1. So they go through to the semi-final, and they go through to the semi-final, followed by Brighton, who probably had the easiest tie of the round, playing at home to League Two Grimsby. League Two Grimsby, for the first time in something like, I think it was 82 years, they reached the final of the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. It may be even longer than that, I think, 90 odd years, but they got to the quarterfinals anyway. Away at Premier League Brighton, who was 7th in the Premier League. Brighton gave them a bit of a football lesson, smashed them 5-0. But Grimsby did really well to get through. They are the first side ever to go through every round from round 3 all the way through to the quarterfinals, beating teams a lot higher than them, either in the league above or 2 or 3 leagues above them. Should mention they beat Luton Town, who sit in the playoffs in Championship 3-0 at home in a replay. They also beat Southampton 2-1 away, which is rock bottom Premier League team, but still to win at a Premier League team when you're a League Two team is insane. So credit where credit's due. I'm a Scunthorpe United fan and a Forest fan, but even I've got to say Grimsby had a really fantastic run there. That's got them the money that they need to obviously go on and do better things next season, maybe go for promotion next season. So looking at it all, going to go into the Premier League now. As I say, because of those quarter-final ties in the FA Cup, there was obviously some postponements in the Premier League. The Liverpool game against Fulham was postponed, and obviously Brighton against Manchester United was postponed on the Sunday because of that. Now, Brighton now play Manchester United in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. If I'm going to do predictions for the final, I think it's going to be an all-Manchester final. No surprises there. I think Brighton are a really, really good team, but I think Man United will just maybe take them to extra time in the semi-finals in the FA Cup and end up getting through, obviously, to the final. And I think Manchester City will make quite light work of Sheffield United. In fact, I'll say predictions now. I'll go 3-1 to Manchester City in their game against Sheffield United in the semis. And I'll go for Manchester United to win after extra time 2-1 against Brighton. So that's going to be my predictions for the 2 FA Cup semi-finals. Both are played at Wembley. Brighton's reached the semi-finals 3 times in the last 4 years. So they're doing really fantastic work there. Anyway, we're going to jump into the Premier League. Arsenal maintain top position. They're now 8 points clear because of Manchester City playing in the FA Cup. They won convincingly at home to managerless Crystal Palace, who got rid of Patrick Vieira in the week. They won 4-1. A goal from Martinelli, 2 from Saka, and another goal at the end there to make it 4-1 for them. That keeps them 8 points clear. Manchester City, as I say, they played in the FA Cup. Looking at the other results, Aston Villa absolutely smashed Bournemouth 3-0. Bournemouth needed to get points to get out of the relegation zone in the Prem, but they got smashed 3-0. Goals from Douglas Luiz, Jacob Ramsey, and Buendia gave Aston Villa a comfortable 3-0 victory. Leicester City got a vital point in their fight to stay away from the relegation zone, but they only remain just above the relegation zone in 17th now. They drew 1-1 away at Brentford, which is quite a good point for them. Barnes equalised after Matthias Jensen scored for Brentford. Then Chelsea, they drew 2-2 with Everton. Everton still obviously fighting to get away from the relegation zone. They currently lie in 15th, getting a much-needed point. They went down twice in the game, but came back both times, thanks to goals from Decore and Sims on the 89th minute for Everton to get a 2-2 draw at Chelsea. Southampton came from 3-1 down to draw 3-3 in the game, so they got a vital point in their escape to get out of relegation, away from relegation. Leeds United absolutely smashed Wolves 4-2 in their game. Goals from Harrison, Aylin, Christensen, and a goal right in injury time on the 97th minute for Rodrigo. My lads Forest, they lost 2-1 at home to Newcastle. Obviously, I'm rocking a Man United shirt today, but I like the collecting the shirts and stuff like that. But I'm not one of these that hates. I mean, I hate not hate, but I dislike the rivals of my two actual teams, Forest and Scunthorpe. But I don't. Do you know what I mean? I just like watching football in general and people and the different teams and what they get up to. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for those teams. Supporting a team in the Premier League that's not far off the relegation zone in Forest, and supporting a team that's in the Conference North, right in the relegation zone. I do admire teams who do really well on a small budget, and not a massive fan base. I always admire those sort of teams, and of course I admire the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, all these teams that win lots of trophies over the years. So anyway, but that's what's going on in the Prem. Forest lost 2-1 on Friday night. They did take the lead through Emmanuel Dennis on the 26th minute, but 2 goals from Isaac on the way back from injury for Newcastle. One on the 45th minute just before half-time, and then he got one in the 93rd minute from a penalty. Cross was put in. Niakhaté coming back from injury, handballed for Forest, and Newcastle got a penalty, which the points were much needed for Newcastle as they tried to overtake Tottenham into that final Champions League spot in 4th. Yeah, and that was the results from the weekend. As I say, Arsenal is top by 8 points. Manchester City obviously have a game in hand, which will make them only 5 points behind. I can't see Arsenal making a mistake now with the Premier League. I think they've got it sewn up almost. It will be another 10 cup finals for them till the end of the season. But yeah, that's how things are looking. Because certain teams didn't play at the weekend, looking at the relegation zone, West Ham are in there with Bournemouth and Southampton. Leicester and Forest slipped down the table because of not winning, and Leeds picking up a 4-2 win. That pushed them outside of the relegation zone up to 14th behind Wolves, and Everton got a much needed point which popped them above Forest and Leicester in the table. So that's how the table's looking at the moment in the Premier League. We obviously know the FA Cup semi-finalists now, and going into the Championship, Coventry City, my outsiders at the start of the season, I said they'd be dark horses to get into the playoffs. It's proving it might be the case. They're only sitting 3 points outside after a 4-0 smashing of Blackpool, who are in the relegation zone. I thought Blackpool would make it a bit tighter against Coventry, but Coventry on really good form. Blackpool came off the back of a 6-1 win at home to QPR in midweek. Absolutely insane, though, that they got smashed 4-1 by Coventry. Middlesbrough kept up their good run to try and get that second place off Sheffield United, as Sheffield United were playing in the quarterfinals, obviously, against Blackburn at the weekend. Middlesbrough had a chance to close the gap. Middlesbrough now only 3 points away, having beaten Preston 4-0. Goals from Atpom, 2 from Archer and 1 from Force. Gave them a 4-0 win there that kept them, like I say, only 3 points away now. They've only played a game more than Sheffield United, so the pressure's on Sheffield United now to win that game in hand and to keep Middlesbrough at arm's length to stop Middlesbrough from getting that automatic promotion place. Burnley are absolutely flying, even though they played in the FA Cup at the weekend. They've got no danger of getting catched. They're 16 points clear, and there's only something like 9 games left for them to play in till the end of the season. So, yeah, so it's looking really good for Burnley to get back in the Premier League, and it's a battle between Sheffield United and Middlesbrough to basically get that second spot. Even Luton could possibly get in there. They're only 6 points behind, having played the same amount of games as Sheffield United. So Luton and Middlesbrough realistically have a chance of taking that second spot off Sheffield United in the Championship. Going through the other results, Millwall lost 1-0 surprisingly against Huddersfield. Huddersfield now are only 3 points, no, not even 3 points. Yeah, 3 points they are away from getting out of the Championship relegation zone. They're only 3 points behind Cardiff. QPR lost 1-0 at home to Birmingham. Their form continues to struggle despite getting a 1-0 win against Watford a few games ago. They have really struggled. They lost 6-1 away at Blackpool and they've lost 1-0 against Birmingham. They didn't play great in that game from what I've heard. An early goal from Chong gave Birmingham all 3 vital points as Birmingham bid to stay well clear of the relegation zone, which I think they'll do now. Reading drew 1-1 with Hull City, so a decent point for Hull. Rotherham and Cardiff got called off due to a waterlogged pitch at half-time. It was called off. Stoke against Norwich was 0-0. Sunderland drew 1-1 with Luton, and Watford drew 1-1 with Wigan. So Wigan got a kind of a vital point. Will it help them? Wigan at the bottom of the Championship are only 5 points off Cardiff, are just above the relegation zone. So it's going to be really, really tight between all those teams down the bottom there. But yeah, top goal scorer in the Championship is still Chuba Akpom with 24. Gutierrez, who got a goal, he didn't score at the weekend, but he's doing really well. He's just behind in second place with 18 goals. So looking lively. As I say, Burnley, Sheffield United at the top. Playoff places, Middlesbrough, Luton, Blackburn and Millwall. And in the relegation zone, it's still Huddersfield, Blackpool and Wigan Athletic. Jumping into League One, I'm just going to race through these results now. In League One, Sheffield Wednesday are still top. They drew 1-1 against Burton on Friday night. They went 1-0 ahead, but a goal pinned them back from Bolton to have a 1-1 draw. But it still keeps them top of the table, only by 1 point, as Plymouth got a much-needed 2-0 win against relegation-threatened Forest Green, who are actually, well, I say relegation-threatened, they're virtually guaranteed to go down now. The bottom of League One, and they're something stupid like 13 points away from getting out of safety. So I think it's safe to say Forest Green will be playing in League Two football next season. Accrington Stanley against MK Dons, both teams fighting to avoid the drop in League One, but MK Dons got the vital 3 points, winning 1-0. Bristol Rovers unfortunately lost 2-0 at home to Portsmouth, 2 goals from Colby Bishop in that game. That sort of pushes Portsmouth fighting sort of to try and get into the playoffs, but it looks a bit unlikely. They're still 7 points clear away from it, but a decent win for them. Cambridge lost 2-1 at home to Charlton. Cheltenham won 3-1 against Exeter, much needed points to get Cheltenham further away from the relegation zone. Derby had a shock 2-0 defeat against Fleetwood, losing 2-0, so that was pretty shocking for them. Ipswich won 2-0 against Shrewsbury Town to put the pressure on Plymouth. They're still lining third, Ipswich, and they're only 2 points behind Plymouth with the same amount of games played. So it really is a battle there between Ipswich and Plymouth to get that second place, automatic promotion place in League One. So that should go right to the wire, that one, by the looks of it. Lincoln City, they had gone 17 games unbeaten at home this season in League One, but that finally came to an end at the weekend. They lost 3-0 to Peterborough, who are on really good form at the moment. Peterborough won 3-0. Goals from Johnson, Clark, Harris, Taylor and Ward gave Lincoln City their first loss at home this season, but it has to be commended. Lincoln City went 17 games unbeaten at home. A lot of those were draws, to be fair, but they finally came undone against Peterborough, but fair play to them. Morecambe drew 1-0 with Oxford. Port Vale lost 3-2 to Burton Albion, who Burton are having a bit of a mini revival at the moment. And Wycombe lost 1-0 to Barnsley. So Barnsley cement their place in the League One playoffs. So yeah, looking at the table, Sheffield Wednesday is still top, but they're challenging very closely by Plymouth and Ipswich, to be fair. Plymouth are only in second with 1 point behind, but Sheffield Wednesday have 2 games in hand on Plymouth, so they could go further ahead. Ipswich are literally 2 points off, as I said earlier, Plymouth, so they're not even far away. So there's a little bit of pressure on Wednesday, but they have got 2 games in hand to pull away. If Wednesday was to win those 2 games in hand, they would go 7 points clear of Plymouth. But we'll have to see what happens anyway. But it's getting interesting up there. So Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth in the top 2 positions. Ipswich, Barnsley, Derby and Bolton in the playoffs. In the relegation zone in League One, you've got Accrington Stanley, Morecambe, Cambridge United and Forest Green Rovers, as I said earlier, cut adrift right at the bottom there, and looking to go down into League Two by the looks of it. So into League Two, I'm going to jump now, race through this quick. Leyton Orient were top at the start of the day, but they had a localish derby. They were playing against an Essex team, Colchester United, at home, against the former manager, Embleton. Leyton Orient, though, they had a really good start to the game. They went 2-0 up in the game, but in a crazy last few minutes in the match, Colchester fought back and got a much-needed draw, drawing 2-2 at Leyton Orient. But Leyton Orient are still, even after that draw, they're still 6 points clear of Stevenage. Stevenage were playing, I don't know if they were playing actually at the week. Oh yeah, they were playing away at Carlisle, who were in the automatic promotions places at the start of the day. But both those teams, you would have thought there'd be a lot of goals in that game, because both those teams had rediscovered really good form, and obviously Carlisle's got a good scorer in Dennis in the league, Christian Dennis. But game finished 0-0. AFC Wimbledon, they lost 1-0 at home to Crawley. Bradford drew 2-2 with Hartlepool. Harrogate beat Barrow 1-0. Northampton beat Crewe 1-0. Crazy game at Rochdale. Rochdale, who are rock bottom of League Two, drew 4-4 with Swindon. But Charlie Austin, who's come back to his old club, I think Charlie Austin's like 34 or something like that now, 33, 34. He got 4 goals in that game for Swindon, so great day for him. Good comeback for Swindon to get a point. Northampton beat Crewe 1-0. I think I mentioned that already. Salford City beat Doncaster 3-1. Stockport drew 1-1 with Mansfield. Tranmere got smashed 3-1 by Newport County. And Walsall won 2-0 against Gillingham. How that makes the table look, like I said earlier, Leyton Orient are still top of League Two. Second place, you got Stevenage. Third place is Northampton. In the playoffs, it's Carlisle, Stockport County, Bradford City and Salford City. And down in the relegation zone, it is Hartlepool and Rochdale. Hartlepool slipped back down into the relegation zone because of Crawley winning 1-0 at AFC Wimbledon. Top goal scorer in the league, still Andy Cook for Bradford City. So, yeah, that's how the tables look across the whole weekend. Few, not many shocks, but there was a few. Everton did get a good point away at Chelsea. I suppose you could call that a shock, but Chelsea are having a bit of a bad season this year. They're in 10th, so they're not having a great season. So not really a shock there, but there was a couple of teams fighting to avoid relegation in the Championship that got some decent results, mainly Huddersfield away at Millwall. So some decent games over the weekend. Whoever team you support, I hope they got a result. Thank you to everyone that continues to watch the channel. It has dipped a bit in numbers recently. I'll have to promote it more, but I do appreciate people's support, and have a great week, whoever you do support. And I'll do another episode, and that'll be going through the fixtures for the whole of this week coming from today, Monday, all the way through to the following Monday. So have a great week. Bye for now.